What's up, guys? It's your host, Spartanic Arts DxD, back with another high school DxD related video. And today we have What If Issei Was Betrayed, Part 8. This was probably the best episode I have witnessed of this series so far. It was so exciting that I even lost my voice doing all the voices that I do. So let's try to hit 300 or 400 likes for this episode. That'd be absolutely amazing. And if you guys want to know when I upload / my upload schedule, click the little blue button right next to the subscribe button. Or click the first link below, the first link in the comment section, or the first link in the picture right now, because I know at least 100 of you people are in here. So go ahead and hit that like button. It would be highly appreciated. So, without further ado, I would like to go ahead and thank my balance breakers and my Juggernaut Drive members. VR Wolf, Lachlan Yates, Cool Ninja 12, Dark Phoenix, Anthony Lewis, thank you for becoming a Juggernaut Drive member. Ziki 2000, Nuga Booga Uga, Seraph Leviathan, Night Ammo, and Ardit Karenzi. Thank you so much for becoming a Balance Breaker / Juggernaut Drive member. Seriously, I cannot appreciate you guys enough. What If Issei Was Alone and What If Issei Was Deceived? The next part is up over on my Patreon. If you would like to join, that'd be absolutely amazing. And my Patreon members: Smells Noise, Lachlan Yates, Godkiller, Elton, Connor Castle, Mark Bacon, Jake Shirley 2, Logan Kolar, and Just_Zeke. Thank you so much for becoming a Patreon member. What type of other anime do you guys want to see on the channel? I can do other what ifs. I can do Naruto, what ifs about Dragon Ball, obviously, things like that. What if Goku was in High School DxD? What if Goku and Vegeta, of course? I've got a lot of requests for that one as well. What if Naruto? I mean, obviously, I did a what if Naruto was in High School DxD already, but just let me know what you guys want to see on the channel. I will continue to keep doing High School DxD as well, but just to diverse the channel up a little bit, so, because a lot of people are requesting other content. So without any further intrusion, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into What If Issei Was Betrayed, Part 8. Chapter 11. Lounging on the bed in Issei's room, Issei, Minerva, Invigold, and Ravel were talking about the mission. Ravel was curious about the two girls and their magic capabilities, since Issei was also said that it was not their story to tell, not Issei's. As a strategist, getting information was important for Ravel, and she was curious about what else he could have been up to. She knew that he would ask her about why she didn't tell him about the missing pieces, but she had her answer prepared if it came to that. So let me get this straight. You've been indirectly helping the factions by your base hunting, Ravel said. More or less. I was actually helping Yakuza-san more so. I wouldn't want to see Kuno or Lilith-chan having to fight. Huh? I need to remind myself to call Ka-san. She would be delighted to have Lilith around, Issei said. Lilith visited your parents, Ravel said. Yeah. Made it tough to get her to leave. Now they're both thrilled to have her around. They may do some visits here without me, Issei said. I see. I may ask, how have you honed your fighting style, Ravel said. Cage fights. Huh? Ravel replied. Cage fights. I'm his manager. Since he's a dragon, we have to use seals to nullify his dragon skin, make him more human, so it's more of a fair fight. He'd have some bruises until Invigold came along as our healer, Minerva said. Which, I know you use water magic primarily, and I know you two are demons, but you don't seem like strays, Ravel said. Minerva is an artificial demon, and I am a half-blood, Imagul says. From what clan? It must have been one of royalty because how you dress. It is something the demon nobles would wear in an artificial demon, Ravel said. Correct, I was once your enemy, but defected from my group before they took part in a war against the factions, Minerva said. That explains as much, Ravel replied, and my full name is Invigold Leviathan. Huh? Ravel said, her eyes widened in shock and took a sigh, since pinched the bridge of her nose. You gotta be kidding me. A Leviathan? Seriously? Yeah, just like Volley, her sacred gear is attuned to dragons as well. I'm sure Kiba Gasper told you the underworld would want you then, right? Ravel said, looking at Imbigold. I'm aware of that, but I already have a partner, showing the mark on her right breast. Imbigold says. There was a flash of jealousy that crossed Ravel's face that didn't go unnoticed by Minerva. No way, that's just like Irina-sama's weight. How did you sleep with Irina-sama without becoming a fallen angel? Ravel said. Well, I didn't, but I would have if I didn't regain my control. We were sharing a shower after training, and Issei said, you shared a shower with her? You don't even share one with me, Minerva says, because with her, I know I'll be able to leave the shower with my dick intact. With you, that may not be the case. Issei said, fair enough. Knowing her lust, she would keep Issei in the shower and train him for hours on end. As I was saying, we are sharing the shower together. She looks so good that I have to have her. Similar to when we made out in the hallway after dinner, it made something, but we were naked according to Drag. At some point, I applied my magic to my teeth, bit her down, injecting her with my magic. That's how I wound up making Irina. In a sense, she marked me too, gesturing to the necklace that she still wore. That explains it all, Ravel said. Explains what? Issei said, leaning closer to Ravel. How she beat Sanji. Before turning to Issei. Oh, moving back, realizing Issei got close to her, Issei laughed as he figured that she would be spooked by the close distance. Minerva took that time to head to the door. Wait, if you were in cage fights, wouldn't you have run into Volley? It seems like more scene, Ravel said. Yeah, Minerva and I encountered him after one of my fights a year ago, Issei said. What did you talk about? Because Volley informed us that he didn't find you. He did. He wanted to talk about his wedding and asked me to be the best man. Really? That's amazing, Ravel said. He also asked me to talk with Kuroka for his silence. And you said? I'll think about it. He told me that she had a fallout with Konako as relaxed on the bed, crossed his arms behind his head. Said that Kuroka didn't know what Konako did, and I don't blame her. It took some time. But I feel like I projected onto others, and a select few did, Issei said. We remind you of that. Not everyone is to blame, Imgo replied. And I thank you for that, Issei said. Well, she fought with Konako, Ravel said. Issei told us she wasn't used to hand-to-hand combat, Imgo said. Yeah. Isn't Konako better in physical combat, Issei said. Hey, I'll have you know, I've held my own in hand-to-hand combat against Konako, thank you very much. But Kuroka, she began to blush as she remembered how Kuroka had changed physically. What about her, Minerva said. Apparently, appearing suddenly in front of Ravel, leaning over the young phoenix. Where did you, Issei said as he turns towards where he heard Minerva's voice and just stared. I was just, Ravel said, but she noticed something about Minerva. Why are you naked? I'm not the only one. Her voice was 30. It was then that Ravel noticed the skin-to-skin contact as their breasts touched. Minerva pressed herself onto Ravel's body. It pressed her breast even closer, eliciting a moan from Ravel. Maybe I should have said we're not the only ones. A smirk on her face from Minerva. Ravel turned towards Issei and Imagol, who stared in shock, but they were also naked. For Issei, he had seen Minerva's body before, but Ravel was different. He had seen Minerva and Imagol in that position before, but with a new woman in bed, it was just arousing. Imagol just was in shock, but her shock was turning into lust. Wait a minute, Lilith-chan will come here to sleep, Issei said, despite his erection. No, she won't. Why do you think Yakuza took them to sleep with her for tonight? Minerva says. You planned this? When? I was with you all day, Imagol says. She was usually observant, so she was disappointed in herself for not being aware of Minerva's plotting. Oh, you were? But when you were singing with the girls, I was talking with Yakuza. The little birdie was just a bonus. I was hoping for the brunette as well, rubbing her body along Ravel's. So, don't sell yourself short, but I had to pick the right moment, so just give in. You wanted Rhea-san as well, Ravel said, trying to keep her to herself. Yes, I like bringing women into bed. The only man that can have me is of course Issei, but I know I will be having a harem sisters, so why not enjoy them as well? Besides, Issei never minds it. Ravel had to look over at Issei to see how aroused he was. She took a glance at Imagol and she looked aroused, but if her breathing was an indication, Ravel even looked at Imagol's body and she couldn't help but wonder if they would have a turn with each other. She could also see how Imagol was eyeing Issei's erection. It was only a matter of time. Issei was enjoying the softcore action, and thanks to his dragon hearing, he could hear some of the moans down the hall. Looks like Kiba is getting some action, Issei said, until he let it groan, turning back to see Imagol go down on him. Oh, shit. Sorry, Issei-san, but I need this, Imagol says, holding his hands to him before going back down on him. Issei could only groan, as despite being soft-spoken, Imagol could dominate in the room. Ravel was just watching Imagol. What is going on, man? Alright, they're doing it, okay? So I'm just going to get to now we skip to the Pentadragon Manar. Yeah, we all know what happens right there. The Pentadragon Manar was where the Volley team was located themselves. Since Volley didn't want to be in either the Great Garden or Asgard, they could have stayed back in the Black Dog Bar, but he didn't want to take up too much of their space. Uther Pentadragon, Arthur, LeFay's father, welcomed them to the manor as the base of operations. He could be closer with his children and their relationships. He accepted Arthur's relationships to Elaine and was worried about LeFay's relationship status with Issei, but was informed that Issei accepted LeFay's relationship to Theo. Theo is a magician that she had met at the Trihexa celebration, and they hit it off. He also joined the team. LeFay had been disappointed that she could not introduce Issei to Theo, but she understood why he left, and she wasn't a part of the issue. The team was Lounging, the Pentadragon couples were talking amongst themselves. Byakuya was playing video games, and Volley was reviewing reports of an earthquake in Japan. Fighting that Issei had to do something with Volley Gasper's mission. Unfortunately, after the meeting, Volley could not get a hold of Issei and still couldn't. A magic circle appeared, announcing Kuroka's presence. If it had been any other male, other than her teammates Uther, they would have stopped and stared. Kuroka had traded in her kimono for an armored catsuit that hugged her voluptuous figure and her sandals for low-heeled boots. And thanks to training in hand-to-hand combat, her muscles were more toned. With an enhanced figure, her facial features were much sharper and sleeker, enhancing her beauty. She had many suitors, but wanted none of them. Volley, Kuroka said. From the tone of her voice, her teammates stopped what they were doing and watched her march towards their team leader. What is it, Kuroka? Volley said, not bothering to look in her direction. I want to know. Did you find Issei or not? Kuroka said. No, I didn't. Well, I overheard the Gremory talking about the possibility of a new Red Dragon Emperor. The Shonen claimed that she felt a familiar aura of the Red Dragon Emperor on Gasper, Kuroka said. Oh, really? A new Red Dragon Emperor, Volley says. They were claiming that Drake left because of the Opie Dragon name, and I know you know that's bullshit, considering the Phoenix Clan changed the name of the show. And also, Albion hasn't left you for the Butt Dragon name, so what gives? Kuroka said. Oh, that is true. I don't know, Volley said. Devlin said you were laughing about something. Aren't we supposed to be a team? So what secrets are you hiding? You know your attitude changed when you went to Tokyo a year ago, Kuroka said. I was checking on an underground fist fight scene back then, Volley said. Huh, typical, Byakuya replied before going back to his video games. What really happened back then? Saw a fight. Couldn't figure out why Orpheus or Lilith popped up there, probably for the food, but nothing suspicious. Enjoyed the fight, talked to a fighter that I liked, and we went our separate ways. Who was he? Kuroka said. Who? Volley replied. The fighter. Who was he? It's been a year. Can't remember. If you noticed, I haven't been back there since. Kuroka frowned. She felt lost. She just wanted to know if Issei was out there. With a frustrated sigh, she sat down on the table beside Volley and put her head in her hands, believing the drama to be over. The others went back to talking with each other. I don't think I'll ever get the chance to apologize, Kuroka said. Volley had grown to care about his teammates, so it did suck for him to see Kuroka sad. He also probably gave Issei another harem member. He knew Kuroka was interested in him for his celestial dragon, but he didn't see her like that. He felt her personality leaned more towards Issei. Regardless of it, it was the new Issei or the old Issei. He knew that the new Kuroka definitely matched with the new Issei. She wasn't as flirty and kept to herself. So he patted her on the shoulder. We'll see what happens in a few days, Volley said. The faction meeting, apparently. Gasper found some useful information, Kuroka said. Good. Maybe we'll know who or what we are dealing with, Volley said. I guess. I'm going to bathe and go to bed. As she stood up and walked away, Volley watched her leave to make sure she would be out of range. When he was sure that she was far away and not paying attention to him, he took out his phone and sent a message to Issei that said to uphold his end of their deal. He figured that he wouldn't get a response for the remainder of the night. With nothing else to do, he figured that he would play with Byakuya to pass the time. He would pass me a controller as he joined his teammate on the couch. So, the next day. It was mid-afternoon, and there were two bodies in the hot spring relaxing away. Those bodies were Kiba and Issei, who felt good to get away from their ladies. The two didn't say much, just relaxing their sore bodies, but Issei had more wear and tear due to handling 3 ladies last night. They simply sat there, not saying a word. So how was it? Issei said. I should be asking you that, Kiba replied. I'm not the one who got injured and walked out of her with a slight limp, Issei said. Well, when she's not prim and proper, I will say Tsubaki knows how to ride. So can Minerva. Thank goodness for Mugo-chan. I could spend some time with Ravel-chan, Issei said. Riser may try to kill you for his sister. You know that, right? Kiba said. Well, I did ask him to get me a meeting with their parents, Issei said. Oh, that's right. The rings. You're going to ask for their blessing. That's right. They can make it public that Ravel Phoenix is engaged to the Red Dragon Emperor. Nice. Congratulations, Issei. Thanks. I still need to show the rings to Yakuza-san. She will be displeased that she hasn't seen them yet. Well, I'm assuming you've shown Riser. Who else has seen them, Kiba says. Only my parents. I was with my Ka-san when picking them out and sent pictures to To-san which ones. By the way, what piece is Gasper for you? Huh? Oh, Gasper became my rook. He looked up to you, so he trained in some hand-to-hand combat. Kiba said, then who replaced him the Gremmary's Barrage? All I know is that Lunar replaced Zenovia. My guess is she hasn't replaced Rosvaisa either. Issei said, yeah, about that. You remember Akia Kiryu? What about her? She was like a pervert like me. Don't tell me. The Gremary added her to her barrage? Yeah, considering that she was trained by Livian-san when she discovered to have an affinity for magic. Though, I think training with that Lavinia stopped after she joined the barrage. I see. So, they got annoyed with my attitude. Instead of talking to me and trying to work on a relationship, they cheat on me, embarrass me, and then bring in the female version of me. Kind of hypocritical, don't you think? Issei says. She's also in a throuple with Azia and Lunar. The hits just keep coming, Issei said. Yeah, Rias did try to ask Sona for Loop. You know, the werewolf. Sona rejected her on that front, plus Loop wasn't interested. Guess she is not used to being rejected, the Gremary, I mean, Issei said. No, she's not. You know, because of their pride. I can see either of her or what's his name? Devlin, Kiba says. Close enough. I could see them challenging me at this meeting, and you know what? I probably will accept it, but I'll make it on my terms, Issei said. What do you mean? Kiba replied. Come on, Kiba, you're a demon. You should know how they think. They would look for an advantage. Like, they would try to get me to go against the whole DXD team. I mean, I'm strong, but I'm not that strong. You got Dulio, Sun Wukong, Team Slashdog, Volley, and his team. Seek-chan and our barrage. I can't take on all of that. Well, all of those that you listed respect you and would decline. At best, you would face us, the Gremary Barrage, and maybe Devlin's Barrage, but that isn't it much anymore. Just consists of him, Akino's boyfriend, who defected from Fallen Angels, and Konako's boyfriend, a yokai. Unsurprisingly, maybe Barkiel would join. I can handle Barkiel before he can do anything, Issei says. How so? I can't tell you my secrets, Kiba. I have a feeling that Devlin, Kiba said. Devin, Issei replied, making Kiba's sweat drop now that he realized Issei was doing this on purpose. We'll try to force it out of you. Well, we better get back to our ladies, Kiba said. I guess, Issei replied, as the two got up and headed back to their separate rooms. For Issei, he placed special seals to prevent Norma from teleporting into where he was changing clothes. The room still smelt of sex, and the three women were cuddling with each other. Issei would be aroused, but he wasn't feeling like having another sex marathon, so he left them to rest. The hot spring really helped relax his muscles that women caused to wear out. He did take his cell phone, so he would contact his parents and give them good news as he walked down the halls. Hello, dear, how are you? Hey, Kasan, guess what? No more running away, Issei replied. Running away from the factions. No more hiding. You can see Lilith-chan again in one more permanent basis if you want. Really? I can see my baby girl again? You won't drive her away because I swear? Issei Hyoto, if you're lying to me, there will be consequences, Miki said. I know, but I'm not. Well, you know what? I think we'll head to England and see the Shioto then. I wouldn't mind helping Mizuki in her restaurant. It gives me something to do. As much as I enjoy the luxurious lifestyle that you provided for us, it does get a little boring, and Lilith-chan did give me a chance to be a mother again. Felt like having a little one around. Plus, she can remain that age infinitely, so I would never have to worry about her growing up believing me. I haven't left you, Issei said. Oh, but you will, sweetheart. All the children leave their parents at some point. You will go off with your wives at some point, have children who will come visit every now and then, which, by the way, we will be visiting your grandmother next month. I know, Issei said. Oh, maybe you can propose to Irina by then. You know your grandmother has been shipping you two together since you were children. That's a thing, right? Shipping? I heard you pair people romantically. Yeah, I think so, Issei said. Oni-chan, Lilith said, coming up to hug him. Hey, Lilith, bending over to hug her. Of course, he saw her nose wrinkle a little, indicating she could smell the sex on him. Put my baby on the phone, Miki said. Once there was nearby. Hey, Lilith-chan, I got someone that wants to talk to you. As he handed her the phone. Hello? Issei did not pay much attention to the conversation as he watched Lilith nod her head, most likely to whatever Miki was saying. He saw Lilith's face change in a smile as he continued to nod. Seems like you made it again, Orpheus said again. This time with a bird, huh? Floating alongside Issei. Oh, hey, Orpheus. Sleep well, Issei replied. Probably better than you. It was silent. Good to know. Hey, Orpheus, since you gave some of your snakes to the members of the Chaos Brigade, you think it's possible that someone may have tried to synthesize your power? I mean, Rizavim created Lilith-chan. I suppose that's true. Why do you ask? Considering what we faced, an enhanced vision of the necromorph, Issei said, that seemed to have magical properties probably enhanced by a demon, since they had information about the demon clans of the underworld that was just in that base. Who knows what other things they may have? For example, the base Lilichun was created in. It may be destroyed since it was the Quillipot's base, but information could have been extracted from there. That is true, Orpheus replied. Don't want to think about what could have happened if there was a necromorph that enhanced by your power. So be wary of who you give your snakes to, Issei says. Very well, so replied. Oni-chan, where can Lilith go see Kasan? Oh, you finished with your call. Guess Kasan didn't want to say bye to me, huh? Chuckling to himself as he got the phone back. Well, Lilith-chan, Kasan isn't home of right now, but when she does return, I'll bring you to her. But wouldn't you miss playing with Kano-chan? Lilith does like to play with Kano. Lilith says, don't worry, you'll be able to spend time with both Kasan and Kano, okay? Rubbing Lilith said, okay, now, let's go find Kano-san. Lilith gave a nod and took the lead, heading down the hallway with Issei and Orpheus following behind. You were good with kids, Issei. Thanks. Your mates are going to want one from you. Let me just get through college and these necromorphs first. I bet the black-haired one will be the first one. Minerva? I mean, I could see Kuroka. Orpheus said, smirking at Issei. What makes you think that she could have my child? She has a mating phase. So do you. You put together the two in a room, clapping her hands together. Besides, you know she is not to blame for what happened, though she does blame herself for not being there for you. For a split second, I thought you were making a joke, but I'll talk to her about it. I already know I projected my anger onto others that didn't do anything wrong, but hopefully her boyfriend doesn't get jealous, Issei said. Kuroka doesn't have a boyfriend, Orpheus replied. I thought she would have hit it off with that demon that I saw her talking to at the party. She's not always lucky, you know. Couldn't you provide her blessing like you did with Irina? The angel? Oh, 2 is another top candidate. Candidate for what? To have your child. I thought we moved past this. But yes, the angel, Issei said. Perhaps. Maybe I should do it so you can forgive her. I mean, to find a compatible partner, Issei said. Don't need to. It'll all work out, Orpheus replied. Whatever you say, waving her off, which Orpheus smirked once again. Now, in the Agaris mansion, Sugivara, Rosvaisa, and Zenobia were having a late lunch. While Sugivara and Rosvaisa were relatively calm, enjoying their meals, Zenobia was nervous. It was obvious to the other two women why she was nervous. Relax, Zenobia, Rosvaisa said. You're not the one he hates. I was such a hypocrite that night. Acknowledging one's mistake is a sign of maturity, Sugivara says. She's right. I even came around to forgiving you, Rosvaisa said. In training me with magic. Thank you for that again. I hear you were a great student council president as well. You showed great discipline, Sugivara says. Yes, you were authoritative and respected the students. The Seichi Parage gave you high praises. Really, Zenobia said? They are right in voting for you to succeed Sona, Rosvaisa said. I just want to do a good job, but I guess I was using it to hide my loneliness. I lost my friends on both sides. I lost someone I considered a sister, but I deserved that. I will never forget the last words to me. It was nice knowing you. She warned me, and I didn't listen and paid the price for it, subconsciously reaching behind her back where her scar was. It takes time. You were with Irina for years before you joined the Grimoire Parage, Rosvaisa said. Well, I got to see their true colors. I was too focused on losing Irina. I began to ponder about what she said. It was about loving someone despite their flaws. I was pretty dense to understand. But for ridiculing Issei, I was also ridiculing myself because I can be perverted sometimes. I mean, looking at what happened between Konako and Kuroka, I don't want that. Like Rosvaisa said, it takes time. If you are likely to prove yourself to Issei, you will prove yourself to Irina, to which Zenobia nodded. My friends back after my injury, Ravel started talking to me. Kiba Gasper had collected my things. Rosvaisa sensei and you, Sukivara-san, taught me more magical capabilities. It does make me feel glad that Rias let me go. Yes. I would say you have improved thanks to your king. Now come on, the day is wasting. It's time for more training, Sukivara says, as she stood up from her seat, made her way to the training room. Rosvaisa and Zenobia are in the middle of training as they followed after Agres Harris. Another thing that Zenobia found that she was also fond of Mecha, and Sukivara showed it to her. It helped her come out of her depression, and she also took some of Sukivara's mannerisms to help facilitate her reign as the student council president. She was really grateful to the Agaris clan and Athena clan because if Ravel didn't take a chance to talk with her, she didn't know what she would be, and she wasn't going to the second opportunity to pass by. Now we're at Kyoto, the day of the meeting. Though, oh god, there's something in my eye. Okay, we're good. Kyoto, the day of the meeting. Those that remained in Kyoto were preparing to head to the underworld for the meeting. Ravel had returned to her family a day earlier. Although it took some healing magic for her to get her legs moving again, she did bear the mark proudly on her right shoulder blade. She felt satisfied and a bit giddy that she beat the other girls to Issei. Orpheus also left, stating that she would have seen them at the meeting as she would appear with Volley's team. Before she did leave, Invigold gave Orpheus the bracelet that she got with Issei at the mall, to which Orpheus thanked her. To appease the others, Issei gave Kano and Yakuza their necklaces, which they gave him hugs for. Meanwhile, Minerva was coerced into giving Lilith her own bracelet. It did help Lilith ease up on Minerva a little and gave the witch a hug. Orpheus also gave Issei a hug and told him congratulations on getting a new mate, which made Issei blush before she left. Knowing that Orpheus could tell that the essence was mixed with Ravel's, and he was sure that Yakuza knew as well. The West Yokai leader said nothing, but she was amused by Issei's embarrassment. Kiba and Tsubaki had also left with Ravel to head back to their respective barrages for the meeting. They did get a message from Gasper that they would want to see what they found. Currently, Issei was lounging with Lilith on his lap and Kodo beside him. The two were sharing a pair of earbuds, watching a video on his phone. He knew they were going to be like this at the meeting as well. Issei was dressed in sleeveless black muscle shirt with black greaves over his wrists and hands. He also had greaves over his legs and was wearing sandals with black pants and a black wrap around his wrist that held dark designs. It was held by a thick red rope. He also wore a cream-colored big-sleeved coat that had similar dark gold designs over the shirt and was tied by thin red rope across his chest. They were simply awaiting for the ladies to finish getting ready. Until Minerva called for him, settling Lilith on his lap, he went to go see what Minerva needed. Heading to the hallway, he saw a former witch was wearing a blue Chinese dress with black pants underneath the black cloaked heel. What's going on? Well, I finished with your saces. As she brought a pair of black saces, I was able to implement some of the enhanced slasher blades into them. Whoa, thanks, Issei said, taking the weapons and twirling them in his hands before holstering them to his waist. Minerva had been working on his weapons these past couple of days after she had gotten what she wanted in the bathroom. With her less sass stated, she could focus on what he desired. There's more. I haven't finished working with Ascalon, so you'll have to settle for Murasama, conjuring a sheath that had a rifle mechanism, magazine-loaded trigger located below the sword's hilt. I need to use it more. I assume you took some priorities that blade to apply to Ascalon, taking a sword sleeve and also holstering the blade into his rope on his waist. Of course, the Murasama sword is an excellent quality, Minerva says. Indeed. But you did steal technology from the fallen angels to make this high-frequency blade. Guilty as charged, Minerva said, shrugging her shoulders, but how are you feeling? Fine. Really? No jitters or anything? She's right. Appearing out of nowhere, it took almost all of Issei's willpower not to jump. When it came to stealth, Immigal was the best. She could disappear at a moment's notice, and Issei could never be able to trace her. He could never find her energy signature, so it was tough for him to sniff her out. He could only hope that she doesn't teach her techniques to Kano. The last thing he needs is Shivia's continue sneaking up on him. Geez, we talked about you sneaking up on me like that, Issei said. Oh, sorry, Immigal replied, forgetting to let her energy signature be felt before sneaking up onto someone she was familiar with. Issei, who now had his heart calm, could see that Immigal was her white noble dress, but not her skin underneath. Instead, she opted for gray tights and dark blue gloves that match her boots. He was sure that the other demons may recognize her noble dress, so he guessed that she wasn't afraid of revealing herself either. It's fine. You shouldn't be worried, Immigal-chan. Issei said no. Like you, I feel like I shouldn't hide either. Minerva rubbing off on her more ways than one. Nuh-uh. Keep it in your pants, Minerva. Come on. We just need to wait for Yakuza-san. No need appearing on her traditional Yakuza and robe. It seems you are also ready. Try not to start a fight. I won't, unless provoked, Issei said. I figured. Yakuza says, before turning the girls Kano, yes, like someone turning attention away from the front to our mother, it's time for us to leave. Lilith-chan, time to get up. Okay, Oni-san. As both girls get up from lounging chair, Lilith and Kano. Oh, yeah. Lilith and Kano returned to watching their videos on their phone, and they stood next to Issei, who rubbed both of their heads. They all huddled next to Yakuza, who activated Magic Circle and transported them to the underworld. Now the underworld Lucifer territory. When they were transported, Issei could sense the multiple beings that were also present or waiting for them. They were also a servant waiting to take them all to the meeting hall. Ah, Yakuza-sama, we've been expecting you. Please follow me. I will take you to the meeting hall. Thank you. Sorry for being late. Oh, you're not. We are still waiting for a few others. Those of the Greek and Hindu faction have yet to arrive. I see. Then we shall follow you. Shall follow after you. Certainly. Right this way. As the servant turned and escorted them, Issei had his hands on Kano and Lula's shoulders to guide them as they were still watching the videos off his phone. Minerva and Imigold looked at him, as it has been a while since they had been here. For Imigold, it had been a century. The rest of the group continued on in silence, of course. Closer they got, Minerva placed a reassuring hand on Issei's shoulders, and Imigold squeezed his bicep. If Issei had any jitters, they were gone, since he had his family with him as they reached the door to meeting hall. We're here, the servant says. They opened the door. Thank you. As the group entered the meeting, and they did, all eyes were on them. They could hear the murmurs as they wondered who Yakuza came with. Finally, Drake says. Let's show them who they're dealing with, Issei said. As the pressure in the room increased a little, everyone felt it. It made everyone's some gulp. Volley, who was with his team, smirked as he looked at Issei, let off a little of his own power. Everyone could feel the pressure increase a little. It only made some others smirk, as they knew the prospect very few, not knowing that it was Issei. It seems Albion got stronger, Drake says. Maybe we're likely evenly matched, though either one of us could play dirty to win, Issei said. Indeed, Drake replied. Issei and Volley stopped unleashing their power as some of the lesser demons were getting their breathing back. Issei looked around, but he could see the Seacher Parage and the Agaris Parage. He couldn't help but stare at Thrasvisa. She looked at him and smiled at him, while Zenobia looked between her mistress and her mistress, who were smiling. Zenobia looked over at the Seacher Parage. They had smiles as well. Riser had a smirk on his first appearance, and Issei couldn't care less what Sauerorg thought. Issei looked over at the angels. He saw Gabriel smiling and waving to him, though Michael was a little bit confused. Issei's expressions turned to some disappointment as he saw Irina was not there. Minerva rubbed his head, shoulder, as he could tell that he was looking forward to seeing his childhood friend. Gabriel gave a small gasp, which caught Michael's attention as he read Issei's heart, as the two angels whispered amongst each other so no one could hear. Something the matter, Gabriel. We forgot to tell Irina about this meeting. We can inform her afterwards. What does she need to be here? Not misunderstanding importance of his ace, because that's Issei. Issei, Michael said, as he looked over at the new prospect. Issei wasn't looking back at them. He stopped to sense draconic power, and his eyes widened a little. Oh no. He knew that Irina was not going to be happy with him, since he left her to enjoy her time with her family. Unfortunately, he did not know Issei would be present. If he did, he would have informed her, though he was not sure if he was able to contain herself. She's going to be mad at you, Gabriel said, teasing her brother, who could only sigh, and he knew he was going to get an earful. Indeed, she will, Michael said, rubbing his head. With Volley and his team, Volley had a smirk and Orpheus had a smile as they watched the reactions of others. He has gotten stronger, Volley said. Yes, he has. I look forward to our fight. After the threat has been dealt with, which Volley nodded. New guy got you fired up, huh? Byoka said, though he seems familiar. He should be. He is my rival. Volley said, so it is the new Red Dragon Emperor? She looked sadly at Issei. People change their appearances as time goes on, Kuroka. Orpheus says, so that is Issei. Arthur replied, putting Orpheus's words together to figure it out. No way. As his eyes widened a little along with Kuroka's, Theo's, and Lefay. Wow, Issei-sama has changed, Lefay said. Damn, this sounded a whole lot more interesting, which Arthur nodded in agreement. Kuroka was in shock. As she looked at Issei's new look, he wasn't looking in their direction, so it allowed her to study him. He seemed a little more refined and more built as well. Maybe I can apologize, after all. But then she remembered something. Volley, you knew all this time, didn't you? Volley only smirked at her and turned his attention back to his rival, who was analyzing his surroundings. Maybe, Volley said. So you've been deceiving the factions for a year. Should have known. You could never trust a Lucifer, a new voice sounded out. What's it to you, Ko? He also owes me a fight. Who won to fight the most dangerous Red Dragon Emperor? Ko says. Most dangerous, huh? Seeing how Issei also had Ko's respect, I may have to agree with you on that. What a surprise, you and I agree on something. Only he knows how to shake up the supernatural world. He's also got some information on these dead bastards. What kind of information? He's faced different types of them. So many of them that he has categorized them. He certainly wasn't slacking around, Arthur says. Issei-sama is definitely stronger than when we last saw him, LeFay replied. Seems like it, Theo said. He was a little nervous about meeting his girlfriend's former crush. Who are the two women that he's with? I can sense they're demons, Kuroka said. They're his mates, admiring the gift that was given to her for Imgold, causing the shock over all of them except Vali, since he had met Minerva when he found Issei. Damn, man just keeps on winning, Byoko said. Kuroka simply frowned. She hated to admit that she was jealous of the two women that were with Issei. She also noticed that the looks that Rosfaisa gave him, along with the heavy blush on Ravel's face as the other members of Rider's Barrage teased her. She looked around to gauge the reactions from the others in her room. The leaders were worried, but cautious of the intrigued of who the newcomers were. Issei and Minerva had to bring out the two chairs Kano and Lilith, and had them sit down while they continued to watch some movie. At least Issei believed that it was a movie or a kid's show, considering that it kept them engrossed. He signaled for them to keep quiet, which Lilith and Kano nodded, a mock salute before they turned to the phone screen. He barely glanced at the Gremory group. He also laughed at what he saw. He remembered Devlin. He would never forget that hair color, and looked at how he dressed. Sadly for Issei, it was dressed too formally. Not for a fight like Issei was, but he decked out in black as a symbol. It was a typical that he stood next to Rias. He almost laughed at the guy sitting next to Akano, because he was dressed similarly to Devlin. It made Issei believe that he was secretly dating Devlin instead of Akano. He made no change in facial expression to tip them off as he noticed their presence. He got an idea who Lunar was, thanks to Azia and Akia next to him, and once again, Issei kept his cool. The guy looked like an arrogant prick, similar to how Riser looked before Issei defeated him. For Issei, he hated people like that and could not wait to get his hands on him. He could not believe that Azia would fall for someone like that, but then again, he did believe that she would slander him and betray him when she declared that he wouldn't hurt him like Rainier did. Now, the yokai was next to Konoko, that nearly did Issei in because he looked like some sort of dog yokai. Konoko was a cat. Issei thought that they would be polar opposites, but then again, opposites attract. He was not going to lie. It appeared that Konoko looked a little taller as well. If they wanted pretty boys, they should have just fucked Kiba. From what I can tell, Kiba's probably stronger than most of them. How pathetic, Issei said. Indeed, Drake says, growling in disgust as the ones who were meant to replace his partner. As the murmurs continued about him, Minerva, and Invigold, Issei could see a couple of council members here as well. He saw the mouths look at him quizzically. He noted the Seraphal looked at Sona, who substitutely shook her head. It seemed that Sona was telling Seraphal not to say a word about him and let the chips fall where they may. He could tell that Azazel and Odin were looking at him and he almost sneered, since they thought they would have his back, but were proven wrong. At least he knows that Odin lost a good amount of respect in Asgard for calling him a boy. He got ridiculed for sending a boy to war in Asgard. He would have been considered a man for going to war, killing enemies in said war, and coming back out alive. To the people were not pleased that their leader called him a boy, and wanted to apologize to the Red Dragon Emperor before anyone could say anything. Representatives of the Hindu and Greek factions appeared. Those representatives were Shiva, of the Hindu faction, of course. He was alone, as the other gods of his faction, with the exception of Indra, sealed themselves with the Trihexa. It was representative of the Greek faction that made Issei showcase any emotion. It wasn't Zeus that walked, nor was it Hades. It was the woman that entered with them. Last time Issei saw her, she was wearing something called Godly Virgin Killer Clothes, which proved to be ineffective, since he was not a virgin when we met. She was wearing something similar to that outfit with the black corpse jumper skirt and black blouse. This woman was none other than Nyx, the pyramidal goddess of the night, the one who helped Issei cure Invigold's sleep disease. Issei inwardly growled while Invigold rubbed his back. As she saw the Nyx notice them and licked their lips in anticipation with everyone present, the meeting could now begin. Thank you for coming, everyone, Serzek says. We have obtained some information regarding our enemy. Does this have to do with the mission that you were sent with the two that you want to investigate the base? Shemazai says, yes. That base is destroyed now, but Gasper was able to extract the hard drive from the base. In addition, they were able to rescue a few missing people from our faction, Serzek says. And what is their condition? Michael says. Serzek gave a nod for Riser to speak. They are unconscious, but fine. And there were no issue in their blood work, Riser said. Why was there blood issue investigated. Zeus says, on the mission, Gasper, Kiba were able to capture a necromorph, creating a magic circle that brought out the container that held the frozen infector. Small thing, doesn't seem to be worth the trouble, Hades says. It may be small, but it is formidable. We ran a test on a captured Chaos Brigade member. This small thing turned him into a necromorph that we put down and freeze the creature again. We call it an infector. Subtly glazing at Issei's direction, since he was the one that categorized it. An infector, huh? Odin said. Yes, it is capable of turning something either living or dead into a necromorph. Furthermore, Kiba and Gasper encountered one that could use magic. That doesn't seem good, Shiva says. Yes and no. Yes, because they become stronger, but they also lose their advantage, and that would be the Egyptian god spoke for the first time. They could be detected based on their magic signatures, Ashoka said. How are they able to use magic? Zeus says. I believe the footage that I extracted from the hard drive can explain that, and have the information on the clan of the underworld. This caused murmurs of a few council members that were in attendance before the representative. Zerum Biel spoke. They have information on all the clans, Zircum says. Yes, producing the documents that Gasper obtained from the base and handed them over to Zircum. It seems this can be a lot more troublesome. I assume the footage you will have help us understand the needed information about our clans. I believe so, and they took servants from the clans, but their test subjects are from the factions, looking towards Yakuza as he began to play footage that was extracted from the hard drive. It looked like an operating table that was on a wolf yokai. He looked to be scared and rugged. He was bloodied, barefoot, and beaten, but held a look of defiance against his captors. The Issei and Yakuza said they knew who it was. It was Captain Ryoga. They were lucky that Kino and Lilith were still focused on their movie. I admire your resilience, Ryoga, but it is futile. If all goes well, you may be a successful experiment. What are you talking about, Ryoga says. A couple of figures emerged from the shadows. The first figure was a skeletal and wore a black shroud. He reeked of death. The second figure also seemed skeletal, also robotic. Both figures held motionless faces as they watched the wolf yokai growl at them. You have nothing to say upon seeing our faces, but you should be grateful that Lord Aris has plans for you. Plans? And who is Aris? Ryoga says, struggling against his restraints. Yes, you see, we have obtained information about your factions. Balden here, gesturing to the skeletal robotic figure, snagged a few members of the Phoenix clan and were able to extract the power that is applied from their pieces, from their blood and implanted into you. What? Ryoga said. Of course, you were also injected with the blood of one of our creations. We hear that your people call them necromorphs, correct? So I'll turn into one of them, Ryoga says. Precisely, but you will be stronger. You'll be like me, as Lord Asis intended. And who are you? And what do you mean, like you? Ryoga says. Well, I am an experiment created by Lord Aris, hand-based off the Greek god of the underworld, Hades. My name is Cephatus. Cephatus, Ryoga says. Yes, created from the bone marrow of the Greek god himself. This shocked many of the faction leaders, as one in front of them was essentially a clone of Hades himself. Brother, did you ever have a plan to clone yourself? Zeus says, no, I did not, but it seems they took my scrappings to create that monstrosity. But that name, Aris, it sounds familiar, Hades says. Yes, it does, as they continued to watch the footage. So you're one of the clone of Hades, Ryoga says? More or less. It seems that it's time for your rebirth. Balden, go get Lord Aris. You want to make sure that all goes well. As you wish. As the figure walked into the shadows, rebirth! Ugh, Ryoga says. Feeling a jolt of pain go through his body, he began to profusely sweat. What's happening to me? I told you, it's time for your rebirth. What? He jolted again, feeling something squirming in his body and began hyperventilating. Issei had covered the open ears of Kino and Lilith before the scream came out of Ryoga's mouth. He made sure that all their focus remained on the phone screen as they felt them move their heads. When he covered their ears, they assumed that he was getting their attention, but they could tell that he didn't want them to see or hear something when he prevented them from looking up at him. So they stuck to their movie. Rather than them trying to fight against their big brothers, raised the volume of the movie to try to block out the outside noise. Ugh, make it stop, Ryoga says. As one of his feet became clawed and mutilated, the blood spewed from where the claws grew. So far, so good, Septus says. As the other foot became mutilated, he felt too engrossed and he did not hear the thud of the armored footsteps coming down the hall. How's the transformation? Lord Aris, the transformation is going well, Septus says. Ryoga screams continue. Good. When it's complete, we can move on to the next phase. As a hulking figure, feathered black armor with glowing red eyes, appeared. Ryoga was still screaming his pain as his skin melted away. The flesh on his arm began to bubble and the bone, like blade, ripped out. Soon, Captain Ryoga, don't worry, your suffering will be over, Urs said. Immergold had now taken over and keeping the girls' ears covered and leading them out to the room, and Minerva followed them back as well. Issei had his hand on Yakuza's shoulder, rubbing it in comfort. While Yakuza reached up and held the hand, she was trying to stay strong while watching one of her people become mutilated beast, and she knew that Issei was the same as Ryoga, once his mentor. Kuroka looked down in sadness, and she had met the captain a few times during her time that she went to Kyoto. Ryoga was still screaming in pain. As the blow ripped out of his arm, he screamed so loud. His torso became a bloody mess. With one final yell, his body became still and slumped an operating table. From Urus and Septis, they did not seem fazed by this. After a few moments, there were a growl coming from Ryoga's body. Mandals appeared around his mouth. The body jolted with a roar. For Issei and Yakuza, Captain Ryoga was gone. All that remained was this beast. Excellent, Urus says. There's an energy signature that I can detect looking at the restrained beast. I told you, Ryoga, your suffering will end. Now, on to Phase. He turned towards the shadows. Apollyon, do it! As Arius stepped back, and another hulking figure came forward with a shield and a mace-like axe. It was covered in dull gray armor. From the looks of the armor, this figure had been through some battles with cracks that had possibly dried blood. They mentioned Alapon, dropped his weapons, and approached the necromorph, who roared at him. Alapon did not care, and punched the necromorph in the face, dazing it. He then grabbed the right arm of the necromorph and ripped it off. The necromorph roared again, but not in pain, just in general. Apollyon punched the necromorph in the face again. Now, let's see, Arya said, moving towards the ruined stump of the creature. The next few moments, the faction's expressions went from anticipation to horror. They could see the stump slowly begin to grow back, and hearing Stephus' laughter, it was like the Phoenix clan's regeneration. Riser and Ravel were horrified. These sick fiends were able to replicate their clan's distinct ability. It worked, Septus says. Apollyon, do it again just to be sure, Aureus says. The factions could not believe the sick pleasure that these people had as they continued to watch grow the arm back. They listened to the creature's roars and Septus crackle. It almost disturbed Hades. Apollyon didn't just rip the arm off. He ripped the legs, tore open the creature's torso. It didn't matter what. It always healed. To add insult to injury, they doused the creature in holy water, and the regeneration was not affected. It's a good thing we were able to obtain footage of that fight between the Red Dragon Emperor and the heir of the Phoenix clan, Septus says. The Prosophar involving necromorphs. It makes me wonder what the blood of the White Dragon Emperor or the Red Dragon Emperor can do, Arius says. Yes, one blood with the original Lucifer and the other blood of the Dragon of Apocalypse, Great Red, and the power of Orsis, Septus says. We can get the power of Orphis from the stray Chaos Brigade members that she stupidly gave her snakes to, or Rizavim did, when he deceived the Dragon Goddess. We just need to find them, Arius says. That comment annoyed Orphis and Issei, though neither of them showed it. Volley's team had been hunting former Chaos Brigade members as they were successfully in getting some of Orphis' snakes back. However, due to Rizavim extracting some of the power to create Lilith, it was possible that he dispersed into other soldiers of the Chaos Brigade in Quillipot. It was easy to lure fools to our test subjects. They want to attack the factions, they will believe anything we say, Septus says. Indeed, the factions have superficial peace, but there will always be another Rizavim, another one of us to remain each time. Their forces will dwindle until there's nothing left, Arius says. Yes, you can't have peace without some chaos, Septus says. Correct. How? Isirion come freeze? The former Captain Ryoga and Septus, pack up your research. We'll relocate the new base. But first, use those shoulders from his regime to make some more enhancements and use Baal's clan's DMA. Another spectral-like figure appeared from thin air, wearing a grayish dark green robe. It held his hand, new sickly yellow magic circle appeared and began to freeze the necromorph. What of those girls, Septus says. Leave them. We have enough to replicate the DNA of the Phoenix clan and create more like Dear Yoga. Epsilon, take it to the next base so we can create more. Septus, as I said, create more enhanced beings and leave few of them behind as insurance for the factions to find. They go looking for those girls. Apollyon, Baldin, come, we have work to do, Arius says. As the two armored figures and skeletal robots walked off the camera's viewpoint to handle their own business, the now named Asrian grabbed the frozen necromorph and teleported away. That just left Septus, who began to tinker with the machines, likely backing his data up to prepare for the relocation. Ajuka shut off the footage. It was already a horrifying scene to see someone turn into a necromorph. Issei hadn't seen it before, but never with someone that was close to him like Ryoga was. Other leaders murmured amongst themselves as Issei whispered to Yakuza. Yakuza was saddened, and she knew that she would have to tell Kyono that she lost her uncle Ryoga. It's why Issei made the audible for Imbigold to take the girls out of the room. Neither of them needed to see that. Though Lilith would probably have been unfazed, she was still his little sister and would protect him from seeing things like that. I am sorry for your loss, Yakuza Dono, Serzek says. The footage that had happened was this Septus applying the same to other yokai that I believed work under Captain Ryoga. The DNA from the enhanced necromorph that Kiba and Gasper faced was from the bomb cam. It's an evil world we live in, Yakuza says, still holding Issei's hand on her shoulder, saddened by the loss of a good friend. I'll report this to the Nerifurion. It troubles me that there is a clone of me, Hades says. It makes me think that this Urus was close to me. If he was able to get pieces of my bones, I shouldn't be surprised. His name is Deathless in Greek, Hades says. I believe his armor belonged to a fallen angel, one who would no longer be with us, either Sanatil or Arizol, Shamazu says. That name, Apollyon, means destroyer. It's a name of a biblical origin, Michael says. Ashurion means to be cursed with insatiable hunger in Greek, Zeus says. I believe that the name Septus means eternal death in Persian, Shiva says, and Baladen means the son of death. In Israel, Gabriel said, oh no, I think those four could be considered as Urias, four horsemen of the apocalypse. Apollyon could relate to war of conquest, Athenon could relate to the famine, and Cephas or Baldan relate to death based on their names, Michael says. You may be right, but I think Septus represents a conquest, as it research that created those bastards. His conquest is through his intelligence. Apollyon seems more suited for the war representation, as his name means destroyer, and war only destroys. How troubling, Odin says. Then we must prepare for a new war. We know that they have made some former Chaos Brigade bases, but based on how they were talking, it's likely they have bases of their own, Serzek says. Then I suppose the DXD team will be in effect once again, Shimizu says. Indeed. Duly, are you prepared to lead? Of course. If you would let me, but I ask, is he a new recruit? Pointing at Issei, who is calling for Imagol and Minerva to come back with the girls. And they are joining as well when the ladies come back to the girls? No. Issei says, if I may speak. Who are you? What is your relationship to Yakuza? Zazel says. He is my son, Yakuza says, keeping her composed that almost believed her and shocking at the other's words. Zazel wanted to say more, but decided not to investigate any further. He had a feeling that the man was his former student. He figured Issei would want to reveal himself on his own time. After all, he did show up to this meeting. Zazel gave a nod at Yakuza's answer and said nothing else. Unfortunately, Barkil had to speak. Then I'm sure you were aware that your mother was kidnapped a couple of years ago. Where were you, Barkil said, doing the same thing you were doing when your wife was killed? At least I could have saved the ones I love, Issei said. What's that supposed to mean, Barkil replied. I think it's self-explanatory. You asked me where I was when my mother was kidnapped and my little sister was distraught, rubbing Kyono's head. Like you, I was on a mission. I succeeded, and my mother came out fine. You, on the other hand, failed. Your wife died, and your daughter hated you. She doesn't hate me. We get along fine. I wonder why that is, Issei replied. That struck Barkil and Akino a little bit as they remembered Issei at what he had done for them. Not going to say anything? Then again, I assume her infidelity stemmed from your family tree. After all, that one helped you. How did you repay him, Issei says. My daughter moved on and walked away like a coward, Barkil said. Moved on or cheated? There's quite a lot of talk from your daughter and her group of friends. Some people call them whores. Who was your wife? A whore? Issei says. How dare you speak of my ill wife? Who do you think you... He stopped as he felt his vision turning upside down. He also felt extremely light. He saw a vision towards his body and was shocked. The gesture of the blood coming from his neck. What the... Why is my body headless? Did he kill me? Of course he did. He cut off my damn... I underestimated him as his head was splurring. It turned to Issei's direction as he could see those burning amber hours. Barkil! Shimizu says. I can hear Shimizu's first. I'll get my chunk of flesh soon, Issei says. He already did. I thought you could defend your honor, Shuri, Barkil says. Barkil, Shimizu said. Barkil found his head whipped onto the side. It caused him to blink. He noticed his vision was right side up. He moved his hands towards his face and neck, and he was still attached. He gasped in shock. He was still alive, but didn't know how. He was decapitated just a moment ago. What happened? You were yelling at Yakuza's son before you stopped talking. Barkil looked around. Everyone looked at him, especially Akino, who were worried for her father. He remembered that she was called a whore, and that his his wife was called a whore, but that wasn't true. At least the statement about his wife wasn't true. He knew how fallen angels reviewed Akeno for what she did, especially the woman, considering what Issei was. The story of Rainier was well known. Akeno didn't make it any better. He tried to defend her and her new boyfriend, Arion, who left the fallen angels and joined Devlin's barrage. Orpheus watched with a small smirk, but she couldn't help but be a little irritated by the power Issei used. Barkil continued to look around. He spared a glance towards Issei, who wasn't even following in his direction and was talking to Minerva. It was as if he didn't have time to bother with Barkil, but Barkil knew that in the back of his mind, he did not stand a chance that the one claimed to be Yakuza's son and collapsed to his knee. Normally, I wouldn't care if someone insulted me, but things have been changed. If someone disrespects me, or my family, and my friends by words or action, I will respond appropriately even if it leads to violence, Issei says. Yes, you should manifest your avatar, Drake says. Hold on, we need to teach someone else a lesson, as he saw the guy next to Akeno towards him. Hey, what did you do? Orion says. Clearly nothing. Now I suggest you step back and go to your king, Issei says. Not until you tell me what you did, poking Issei in his chest. As I said, I did nothing. Considering the distance he and I are, it would be hard for me to do anything, as he successfully looked in Serzex's direction. Devlin, please control your queen, Serzex says. Sorry, Lucifer-sama, but I believe Arion is in the right to defend Barkil's son. Very well, then don't be surprised in what is to come. This confused the rest of the Garemri Parage, except Kiba, at Serzex's cryptical words. Whereas the other devil Parage smirked, not including Zenobia and Brial Parage. Since they did not, this was Issei. Everyone else watched the confrontation between Issei and Arion. Issei looked bored, just like Lilith, who was beside him while Arion glared at him. I don't even think you're half of the man that he is. Neither are you. What man goes after a woman that is committed to another? Issei says. She made a choice. She didn't want that pervert like him. Now he was a pervert. He didn't blow her back out in Love Hotel when she offered himself up like a whore in heat. Now did he? He made her forgive that low-life bastard over his knees. He made her accept her fallen. As if Angel, but honestly, that was a mistake, Issei says. Please, the only whore is probably your mother over there, popping the bastard out like you. Bet the little girls would become like her. Two sluts you became probably like already are. Everyone spoke. He spoke low, so only Issei could hear him. He didn't like Issei insulting Akio and barking. Issei turned towards Yakuza and smiled, and she knew that was about to happen. She could only let out a sigh. She smiled and told her friends that it provoked. Issei turned back to Arion, the smile gone from his face, but he wasn't looking at him. He was looking at Serzex, who gave a nod. Shut up! Issei spoke in a cold tone. Bam! Ugh! Arion started coughing out blood as the blow from Issei's fist embedded in his adamant. Issei moved from Lilith behind and stepped back as Arion fell onto his knees and caught himself. He coughed a little blood. He knew he was heaving to get his breath back. That proved to be troublesome. That made taking breaths back only made him grunt in pain. He strained his head to look up at Issei, and his eyes wide in fear at what he saw. A demonic dragon, engulfed in flames, sneering at him. This was Issei's avatar, Ifrit, Lord of Inferno, an extension of Issei himself. Arion, Devlin said, about to rush forward. Don't move, Devlin, Serzex says, forcing Biel to remain where he was. There, now you'll all be a happy family again, on your knees like a bunch of bitches, Issei said. His tone was cold but calm. It pained Akino to see her boyfriend go down like that, but Rias held her back. She knew if Serzex prevented Devlin from going forward to help his queen, he knew that this man was powerful. Who are you? Arion says. He was still in fear at the presence of the avatar. Oh, I thought you would have figured it out by now, since I know you're so much about your partner over there, crouching down Arion's level. Well then, let me reintroduce myself. Drake! To many people shocked, the boosted year emerged in Azazel a sad small smile. Isn't this a wonderful reunion? Drake says. You see, I'm the Red Dragon Emperor, Issei says, then leaned towards Arion and whispered, Issei Hyodo. Hearing the name that made Arion sweat. He heard tales about Issei, but he never expected him to be this strong. Oi, Dulio, is he a part of your team? Issei says, standing back up and turning to the leader team of EDXD. Oh yes, Dulio says. He's weak, Issei replied. All the more reason for you to join us, Dulio says, smiling, as he knew this was Issei, since he was aware that the boosted gear never left this young man, being the joker of Michael and had some benefits. Oh, am I getting paid for my services? Issei said. I cannot answer that question. Sorry, Dulio says, chuckling as he scratched the back of his head. Never thought I'd see the Red Dragon Emperor would grace my presence. It is an honor, Circum says, walking up to Issei holding out his hand. Who are you? Issei replied. Forgive my manners. I am Zircon Biel, spokesman of the council. You are quite a popular bachelor. This surprised many again. Except those who knew him. He did not have a perverted smile as the thought of multiple women pinning for him. He was assessing the situation. He was interested at the moment, considering that he watched the death of his friend. Other leaders were perplexed at this new behavior that Issei showed. He was not interested in a harem. There was no perverted giddiness like before. I must tell you that I am already engaged to royalty, Issei says. I suppose you mean her, Zircon says, pointing at Immigold. I noticed that dress before. Please, young lady, introduce yourself. Immigold stepped forward to stand by Issei's side, neither of them caring about heaving Arion, who was frozen in shock, knowing that he was beaten soundlessly by the Red Dragon Emperor and his girlfriend's ex. Greetings, Council Biel, and other members of the council in attendance. Giving a small bow, Immigold did. My name is Immigold the Leviathan, conjuring her magic circle before the insignia of the Leviathan was in. This caused the council members to murmur amongst themselves. Others were in shock, as other than Volley, they did not think that the other descendant of the original Maus remained. Rias was stunned. She had planned to convince the Red Dragon Emperor to join her, but Arion may have ruined that by provoking him. In addition, he had someone that had descended of the original Mao on his side. I see, but who is your companion? Zircon says. Minerva, calling to teleport to his side, and also teleport to the stunned Arion back to Devlin, who bent down to help his friend. My name is Minerva Orland. I'm an artificial demon created by the Hexachat. This made others worry, since the organization they faced in the Evil Dragon War, but did nothing yet. Interesting, you have quite the companions. Take care of yourselves. Taking Issei's hand to shake his. Councilman, we shall take our leave, Zircon says. He spoke to the other councilmen that were there. They did not object to Zircon's command and followed after him. They took another look at the Red Dragon Emperor and gave nods of respect and then left. The light wings of Volley sprouted from his back. It's been a while, Drake, Albion said. You could say that. What do you want? Drake replied. Nothing. I just thought that I should greet my arrival, Albion said. Well, glad to see that you're doing fine, Drake replied. Makes me wonder, which one of our carriers is stronger this time? I'd say we're evenly matched. I suppose so, as the dragons agreed. I never thought you would show up, boy. However, his greeting was ignored. It was enough for Azazel to know that Issei still held a grudge. It was understandable. They weren't there for him like they should have been. Odin felt embarrassed by the lack of response, but that he knew why. He remembered how Rosvisa and many others treated him for calling him boy. Unfortunately, someone had to speak, and frankly, Issei was not pleased to hear the voice. Drake, if I may ask, how did you escape Issei? Rias says. The leaders looked at her in disbelief, but the Maus' calm expressions, it was clear that they didn't tell. Michael informed them. Escape? Drake says. Yes, you have the new carrier. Is it because of the Opie Dragon name? I understand if it was because, Rias says. You mean the Crimson Dragon, Drake says. What? He replies. The name of the show. Gremory. We changed it from the Opie Dragon months ago. At least you know you're self-centered, that you don't pay attention to anything but yourself. It caused some laughs from both C-Tree and Climax Vaz from Ravel. Hey, don't insult my fiancé like that, Devlin says. She's not your fiancé. Or do you have short-term memory loss? You failed the Triers of Connection, nor have you beaten Issei Hyodo to claim her hand as no. So, well, I can't beat him if he's not here. He is, Arion says. What's that, Arion? Devlin says. He's here, gritting his teeth and simply pointing at Issei, and loud enough for the others to hear him. Rias facepalmed and did the other girls that had betrayed him. Bartol's jaw dropped. He had witnessed Issei put down Arion so quickly. I'll make this simple. I know you want to face me, so I will challenge you to a rating game, Issei says. Well, since you have no problem joining us, why don't we have you versus us, the DXD team? Sorry, Devlin, Dulio says, but the team's matters are not the same as your personal interest. You've combined the Parage may challenge him, but the team will sit this one out. Many of the team members laughed, and Devlin could see that he was not getting their support. Not from Volley's team, the Hero Faction, Team Slashdog, the Parages of Riser, Sona, or Ziki Vera. Cyror, Devlin said, looking at his friend, who simply shook his head, since he was dealing with his own guilty conscience. Issei smirked, as it was typical of a demon who tried to have the numbers of an advantage, but it seemed that his friends were on his side. Very well, glaring at Dulia, can we set the terms? Well, you two deserve each other, pointing between Rias and Devlin. He was bored just being it. So you know what? I just want my engagement to her to be annulled. So what if I want? I win! Plus, compensation for the bases that I destroyed in helping you. Bases, Devlin said. He means these, protecting the images of the charred Chaos Brigade bases, burnt down in ashes some of the images that contained several burnt bodies, most likely of the Chaos Brigade members. The other leaders were impressed with this work, as they knew the bases were destroyed and helped those troops revive. So you're the cause of those, huh? And I'd like compensation. Besides, it makes me wonder if you can't beat your own brother. What chance do you have defeating me? Issei says, but my brother... Now it hit him. He remembered that Issei had defeated his brother, Desharzer, and Desharzer would never tell him how Issei was able to defeat the champion of the raiding games. So do we have an agreement? Issei says. No. While I do accept your challenge to the raiding game, I do have a stipulation. You cannot use the boosted gear in the match. Wasn't planning on it, Issei said. This shocked those around. Don't be so confident, Devlin said. It's not a matter of confidence. I just know the level where I'm at and you're beneath me. You can be a high-class demon in name, but you're not in power, Issei says. If I may interrupt, due to something pending difficulties, Issei, on the behalf of the demon faction, you have been awarded the rank of ultimate class demon. In your contributions to the war against Golopoth, congratulations. This brought claps for most of the leaders and cheers from the majority of the DXD team, since it was well overdue. However, Issei remained neutral. Whereas Rias and Devlin were stupefied by the promotion, as there were other Parage members. The exceptions were Kiba and Gasmer, who silently cheered for their friend's accomplishments, and Akia, who was just impressed. In that case, Nynx, bring it, Zeus says. Of course, Zeus-sama summoning a cloth bundle, something Odin recognized. You seriously plan on giving him that? Odin says. What's the matter, Odin? Didn't learn your lesson from your previous reincarnation? He's not like the previous wielder, unless provoked. Surely that hybrid said something to him that caused him to put him down so easily, pointing at the frightened Arion. But still, Odin says, no, you have no right, since you insulted him that night. Besides, they originated from the Greek faction, made by Ares himself, so we decide who passed them on to, Zeus says. If I may ask, what is it? Issei says. It's a weapon that once was held by a mortal that became a god. Unfortunately, our previous reincarnations deceived him. And so we were killed. I learned my lesson and watched you also become a god, remembering seeing Diablo's dragon god armor. From a mere teenage boy, it was created by a dragon god. I find you more worthy to take these blades and use them as you see fit. It is your reward for helping us in the evil dragon war. I hope that you will continue to help my faction, Zeus says. Of course he will, Nynx replied, as he walked up to Issei with a bundle. Isn't it what we agreed upon, right, Issei? Issei only would groan, while Minerva smirked and Imagul frowned. However, before he could retort, he felt a bump against his leg. Looking down, he saw Lilith resting her head against him, so he crouched to talk to her and see what was the issue. Feeling bored, Lilo-chan? You look a bit tired. Lilith is tired? Can we go home now? Come here, Emoto, Issei said, lifting her and carrying on her arm. She immediately nuzzled under the head into the crook of a sleep. Looking over, he saw the Kano was asleep in Yakuza's arms, so he decided to ask. This meeting is over, correct? Issei says, unaware of his treatment of Lilith caused some of the other women to look at him differently because he was good with kids. I believe so. Thank you for all your time, Zerzek says. Issei whispered something to Lilith, which made her groan, and then handed her to Imagul and nuzzled her into the Imaguld's neck, and Imagul was softly humming. Unaware her hums were heard by Sanji, Volley, and Olivia. They felt relaxed. Orpheus was enjoying the tune because she had listened to Imagul before. Issei was also relaxed, but then he went towards the Nynx and opened the cloth bundle. And it were two swords. He noticed that they also had some Nordic engravings on them. Amazing, Issei said, lifting up the blades, feeling them in his hands. He switched on a reverse grip like he did with his stasis. Thank you, Zeus, Dono, Hades, Dono. I suppose you as well, Odin. Odin didn't expect a thanks, but simply nodded in respect. He knew that he owed it to Issei to apologize. And what was the deal that you made with the Nynx? Zeus says. He is to be my husband. As if a surprise had just kept coming, as a disful husband he had handed baseless around the Greek faction for us. That explains why we haven't lost as many soldiers. We had an accord with the Red Dragon Emperor, and we didn't even know it. Laughing at the irony of the situation, Hades was. Yeah, sure, Issei said, growling in annoyance, but he did what he did to save him in gold, even if that meant becoming engaged to the Nynx. You chosen to be your husband? That is laughable, Lunar says, making his presence known and laughing with his eyes colored. Issei simply looked at him from the side. He could see Zenobia grimace and fidget both in fear and anger. If it's so laughable to you, then I will be intrigued by what you will say after our raiding, Gabe. Issei says. Huh? Lennar says, opening his eyes to look at Issei, but he saw the same that Arion did was frozen stiff. Lennar-san, Azia said, while Akia looked back at the fourth between Lennar and Issei, wondering what Issei did. Akia, I don't know what chose that bastard as your partner, but frankly I don't care. Don't expect me to go easy on you just because we were once friends, Issei said. Wouldn't expect any less from you, Hyodo, chuckling, but she was nervous since Issei did shut Lennar up. Well, I'll take my leave. It's good to have you on our side, Red Dragon Emperor, Zeus says. Correction, on your faction side, and thank you for the gift, Issei says. We'll be seeing you around. Red Dragon Emperor, Hades says. Before addressing the Nynx, will you be coming with us? Of course, Hades-sama. And my husband entertain me later, rubbing Issei's cheek before kissing it. Don't make me wait too long. It sent a shiver down Issei's spine from the Nynx's salty tone. It was bad enough dealing with Minerva in a side glance to her. He could see that she was smirking. He handed off the blades to her, and she transported them to the pocket space. He could see Zeus, Hades, and Nynx leave respective factions. Odin also decided to leave as he didn't have anything to say. It also made Reviza look at him if he was a coward for not apologizing to Issei. I'm glad that you were able to find your peace, Red Dragon Emperor, Shiva says. Shiva-sama, sorry, but I have not found that peace. As long as those beings are around there, or beings like them, my family and friends are still in danger, so not yet. I understand. Take care. I see, Shiva says. Before turning to Serzex, I may be unable to help you. They have not gone after any of my faction. Plus, Indra is preparing a war against me. If he were to align himself with your enemies, then I will join you, Shiva says. I understand. Take care, Serzex replied, receiving a nod from the god of destruction, who left in a magic circle. During the interaction, Issei walked to the angels to discuss Irina's absence. Hello, Michael-san, Gabriel-san, Dulia-san, Issei said. Issei, it's good to see you. Greetings, Hyodo. You haven't changed since I saw you leave Ko. How are you? Gabriel said. I'm doing well, but I think you know I'm here. About Irina, I presume? That is our fault. You see, she has been training hard since you have left. You will be annoyed by our progress. We have time to spend with her family. I thought that she would have told you. Since I talked with her a couple days ago, I believe she was helping her mother with a restaurant or break. I guess she got too tired to inform you that she had finished. I'll call her after this, Issei says. Please do. I fear what will happen if I tell her you were here and didn't inform her, but in my defense, I did not know you would be here. Fair enough, Issei said. Hyodo-san, will you be willing to rejoin Team DxD? Dulio said. Unfortunately, no. I just do what I can to keep those two little sisters of mine safe, nodding towards the sleeping girls in Imagold and Yakuza's arm as they converse with Minerva about something most likely Ryoko's demise. If you need me, I'll have to be compensated. I'm not doing things for free. Before I did, and look and where that got me. I understand, Dulia said, giving a sad smile because he knew that it wouldn't be free to get Issei's help. But for the angels of not turning their back on me, I can negotiate a family discount. You do house the woman that is my first wife. According to Minerva over there, I don't want to displease that friendship that I have with Gabriel-san. I knew you had a good heart, Gabriel said, jumping to give him a hug. In truth, Issei saw Gabriel as another big sister. Since Irina saw the Seraph as a big sister as well, he knew that they would have to visit her, show her the ringlet of Irina as well, but of course, Athers showed his mother to it first. Thanks, but you can let go of me, Gabriel-san, Issei said. Oh, sorry, Gabriel said, letting go of the young man. Thank you, Issei-kun. We shall take our leave, Michael said. See you around, Dulio said. One day we can travel to the world to try more of the fascinating cuisines. One day, Issei said. Take care of yourself, Issei. I will. Waving the angels left, it was the first time that he smiled since the meeting started. Unfortunately, the smile faded away. As he turned around, came face to face with his former teacher, Azazel. The man looked more rugged than the last time you saw him. Hi, Issei, you've been doing well. Can't say the same to you. You look like shit, Issei says. Been through shit as well, Azazel said, chuckling at his own joke. Listen, I'd like to apologize for not being there for you and insulting you that night. I didn't do much as your teacher. I instigated things about your perversions. You may have not seen me as your teacher anymore, but I am proud to see you overcome your turmoil that night, Azazel says. I'll take your apology under consideration. At least one of you perverts had the balls to apologize. The other just left, Issei said. I see. You also unlocked a little of Great Red's power as well. Impressive, but then again, I should have expected that from you, Azazel said. Whatever do you mean? You showed Bjarkul a vision of a dream, didn't you, Azazel said. More or less. I'm amazed that you figured that out, former General Governor, but then again, you were a smart individual, Drake says. Sorry guys, my voice is dead. Thank you, but not smart enough to help out my student. I don't blame you for what you did. In other news, I did start a relationship with Pyongyang. She helped me open my eyes for not being there for you, and how my relationship with Volley became strained. Good for you, Issei said, his tone neutral. I'm also glad you found the women that you love for you, Issei still said. Thank you. Well, I get out of your hair. It was nice to see you again. You're always welcome in the regard that your girlfriend doesn't have to steal our technology, before walking to the fallen angels who were still helping Barkil. That was interesting, Drake says. Yeah, but we have other things to worry about, like telling Minerva that he was aware that she took their technology. As he walked back to the Yakuza, Minerva and Imagul. I wonder why they didn't stop her, Drake says. Good question. We'll have to ask them that later. Before talking to the three ladies, before we go, I'd like to introduce my girls to some friends of mine. Take your time, I'll be here waiting. Issei-chan, upon instinct, Issei caught a flying Seraphal having experience catching two flying girls who were currently sleeping whenever he came to visit. Although Seraphal was heavier than the two girls, he made sure not to say that loud. You shouldn't do that, Seraphal-chan, as he set her down. You're so tall and handsome, and these must be your girlfriends. Hello, I'm Seraphal Leviathan. Looking at Imagul as she said, thank you for looking after him. It's not a problem. What's your relationship to Issei? Minerva said, oh, well, I saw him as a little brother, but I didn't do a good job at helping him out the night of our celebration against the Trihexa. I'm so sorry, Issei-chan. I didn't mean to leave you all alone, Seraphal said. It's fine, Seraphal. I'm also sorry for getting all angry with you when you weren't even involved. Issei says, I forgive you. Giving him a quick hug, go mingle around. I'm sure that you have people you want to meet. Remember always your big sis. Giving a hug, thumbs up, staying behind to speak with Yakuza to keep the kids in company. Will do, Issei said. Come on, girls, as he headed over to the sea tree Torch. It's about time you showed your face, Sanji said, clasping Issei's hand and bring him for a hug. Good to have you around, man. Nice to see you too. As the others came, such as KO and Volley's team Sugiura and Rise's Barrage and Team Slashdog, although Issei didn't let go of Genshiro's hand. Instead, he increased his grip on it. Hey, dude, you can let go. No, since she's not here, you're going to tell me how Irene beat you, Issei said. Hey, she got a lucky shot, no big deal. However, Issei could see that he was blushing and lying, so he increased his grip. Okay, she used your stupid dress break move on me. Issei let go of Genshiro's hand, who winced to start to rub it. Dress break, Minerva says? It was a perverted move that I used to strip girls naked. It has alternative way, and it can be used, but I can give it a different name now that Issei began laughing as he knew what he entailed for Sanji. Ha, dude, that means the whole underworld saw you naked. Yeah, don't want to talk about that, blushing earnestly about his embarrassing loss. I can see why you were sorry. That had to happen. No, you're not, Sanji said, deadpanning Issei's smile. Anyway, as you heard before, this Minerva and Imagul girls, this was Genshiro Sanji. He's the carrier of the Dragon King Vitra. Yo, since you are Issei's mates, these are mine. Grabbing his girlfriends Miyako Noe, Chibaka, and Rima Nuria. I believe you already met Sona, Sanji said. Nice to meet you again. Issei, and hello to you, Minerva and Imagul says. Hope you guys come visit so we can hang out sometime, Rikudo said. Yeah, I'd like to test some move against you, Tsubasa says, pointing at Minerva. Issei said you could fight. I'm flattered by your challenge, Minerva says. It's been a while, Hyodo, Volley said. Volley, you got a debt to pay, and I've come to collect. Issei looked at Volley's team, but also Tobio's team and KO's team. Yeah, I guess I do, staring down his rival for the first time since they had met each other on the underground street in Tokyo. And that is the end of Chapter 11. Man, that was a banger. I even lost my voice while doing it. I can't imagine the actual reunion when I actually have to do this. I mean, my God, guys, that was so fucking good. I cursed, but like, that was just, whew, that was so banger, man. That was an enjoyable chapter. Shout out to that boy Skim Reader. Banger writing right there. I'm dead inside. Please hit the like button. That was an amazing episode. Without any further intrusions, Spartanic Arts the out, boys.